Hey everyone, it's Chris from Rat Race Rebellion. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Job searching can be a really frustrating process, but when you are applying and you never hear anything back, it takes that step from frustrating to discouraging. Today's video is for those of you who feel like you are in that space where no matter how often you apply and no matter how well qualified you are, you're just not getting a response back to any of the applications that you put in. It's also for those of you who are getting into the interview process and then not making it from the interview into a job offer. So I want to go through some of the steps that you can take to pinpoint where the process is falling apart so you can make it better. Before I do that, I want to ask, when you get to the end of this video, if you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. That helps us a lot here on YouTube, making sure that we get our videos out in front of other people who could benefit from them as well. Also, if you like the video and you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. You can do it with the subscribe button right below. And when you do, just click on the bell icon as well. And that will ensure that you're notified every time we put up new content. So let's take a look at why things oftentimes fall apart. If this looks like you, then this video is for you. All right. So if you feel like you are on that hamster wheel, just applying and applying and applying, and for the life of you, you can't figure out why you're not hearing back, hopefully these steps will help you figure it out so you can correct the situation. One of the primary reasons why people begin to feel defeated and they feel like they are just never hearing back is because they're using what we call the spray and pray method of applying for jobs. And that means they're just spraying applications in all over the place, regardless of whether they're qualified or not. And they're praying that something's going to hit, that somebody's going to read their resume and it's going to resonate with them. And, you know, honestly, back in the day, career counselors, and unfortunately some of them still do it, tell people to just apply for everything. Apply for everything, and inevitably something is going to hit at some point in time. That may still have a little, and I mean very little, merit when you're looking for a traditional brick and mortar job, but it does not work in the remote marketplace, because the difference is, if you're walking into a company that's local to you, you're driving in, you're applying for a job where you're going to be in the office or in the building or on the ground somewhere, maybe they're going to look at your resume and they're going to say, oh yeah, you know what? You're not a good fit for the job you're applying for, but we have another position within the organization. With applicant tracking software in play for remote jobs, and with the talent pool being so large, it is an approach that's very unlikely to work. And we'll address that more as we move forward. So one of the things that happens when you're applying for just everything is very few people who spray and pray take the time to customize their resume and cover letter for each and every job that they're applying for. That means you're sending a generic resume in. Basically, yes, does it talk about what your skills are? Does it talk about your experience? Yes. Does it speak to the company about what you bring to the table for them? Probably not, at least not in specific enough terms. So what's happening is your application is unremarkable, and it's probably not hitting on enough of the keywords or the skill sets that the company is looking for. And if applicant tracking software is in the mix and you're not hitting those marks, you're not even going to land in skinned hands of a human decision maker. So it's not going to work for you. It's not going to shine brightly enough to get noticed, and it's certainly not going to get past the bots, the applicant tracking software. So that's the first issue, is it's not remarkable. It doesn't stand out in any way from other applications where people have taken the time to customize per job. Secondly, and I've mentioned this already, applicant tracking software. You have to understand that the majority of companies that hire remote workers are now using applicant tracking software, ATS. And essentially what's happening is we're going to call these the bots. When a human resources manager or a talent acquisition person inputs a job description into their system, they're typing it up in a way that reflects exactly what they're looking for. Who is their ideal candidate? They're sprinkling it with keywords that are relevant to them because they're relevant to the position. So if you're sending in a resume that is not ATS friendly, that is not bot friendly, that is not mirroring the keywords that were used by the person who wrote that job description, where you're coming up short in other areas as well, and if your resume is not formatted in a way that's easily readable or parsable by bots, there's a very good chance you're not hearing back from companies because they're never seeing your application. It's stopping at the software. It is never getting past the bots and landing in the hands of a human decision maker where you can make a more compelling argument for you getting the job. You can't argue with the bot. It's programmed to look for certain things. If you don't hit those criteria, then you're not moving on. All right, so we do have, by the way, in Module 8 of our free online course about how to find work-from-home jobs and land them, Module 8 talks all about customizing a resume so that it gets through the applicant tracking software. Keywords, we also have a second video that's out there about how you can leverage ChatGPT, which is a free application, to go through a job description and pull out all of the keywords, the most important keywords that you should be putting into, or at least supplementing your keywords in your resume with those keywords that were handpicked by the talent acquisition folks. So make sure that you watch those. A lot of times people who are spraying and praying are not qualified for the positions that they're applying for. They're looking at it and they're feeling like, well, you know, I'm hitting 50% or 60% or even 70%, although sometimes a lot less. But because they're hoping something is going to stick, again, they're just applying for everything. So whether they're a good fit or not, they're sending those applications in. And of course, what's happening is if you send out 100 applications in the course of a week and you really only qualify for 10% of them, you're going to get a lot of disappointment. You're not going to be hearing back from them. And in your mind, what you're doing is you're playing a numbers game. I applied for 100 positions and I didn't hear back from any of them. And you feel extremely defeated, much more so than if you applied for 3 positions that you were highly qualified for, that you took the time to customize a resume and cover letter for, and heard back even from one of them. You've got a 33% win on that. Don't set yourself up for disappointment. The numbers don't mean anything if the odds are not in your favor going into it. And they're not going to be in your favor if you're applying for a bunch of jobs that you know deep in your heart you're truly not qualified for. If you have to look at a job description and convince yourself that you might be a good fit, then it's probably not a job that you should be applying for with high expectations. All right. I hope that makes sense. And that's not to be discouraging. On the contrary, I want you to be realistic when you're looking at job descriptions. As I was just saying, it'll beat you down. And that same example, I sent out 100 applications and not one of them responded to me because it's unfocused, because you're really not the best candidate for the job, because there will be other people applying who truly are better candidates. Focus on what you can do best, that you can do really, really well, and present it in the right way, and that will help you shine. Now, what happens if you truly are qualified? You met all the criteria, and you're still not hearing back. Why is that? Well, again, A lot of it is going to be the applicant tracking software coming into play. So if you truly meet all of the criteria and you're not hearing back, you're going to want to ask yourself certain questions. Did I include a position-specific and company-specific customized cover letter? So many people overlook the importance of a cover letter, especially when applicant tracking software is in play. Think about this. Your resume is sort of this boiled down overview of what you've done in your work life. It gives you, 3 or 4 bullet points under each job to list what you've done. There's no room for your personality. There's no room for your drive. There's no room for really expressing yourself. It is data. Resumes are all data. A cover letter gives you a chance to give a glimpse into who you are as a person, but it's also an excellent place to drop in keywords that you pulled from the job description and information that you might have about the company that would meld well with who you are as a person and what you bring to the table. A resume doesn't begin to touch on who you are as a person. It is data. Don't forget the cover letter. Even where it says cover letter optional, just do it. And we do have a module in our course as well. I believe it's module 9, where we talk about cover letters, how to craft them, what should go into them, and why they're so important. So again, that online course, drop in, and even if you don't go through all of the modules, go through the ones that are relevant to where you may be falling short right now and how you can improve when you're applying to jobs in the future. So asking yourself, did you include that customized cover letter? Did you tailor your resume for the exact role that you're applying for? Generic doesn't often cut it unless your generic resume is very, very targeted, very highly specific. It always pays to customize. Go through it every single time. I know it's a pain in the neck applying for jobs, and I know that people hate to customize their resumes. But here's the thing. If you have your core resume, you have your bricks that you can build on. It's not that hard to customize it. It really isn't. The majority of the bullet points and everything are going to stay the same, but that section where you're showcasing your skills and your expertise, that's where you're going to want to drop in the keywords. So focus on that. If that's the only section that you update, generally that's enough. That's where you can drop in those keywords, and it will help you get past the bots and into an interview where you can dazzle them with your personality. So again, last bullet point, did my resume mirror the language and the keywords used in the job description? Never forget that somebody took the time to write that job description. They're putting in information that's important to them as a decision maker. And if you're not mirroring that language, it's a lot less likely that you'll resonate with them. All right? Did you showcase your skills, experience, and achievements that match the employer's needs? And did you convert your resume to an ATS-friendly format? If you currently have a resume that looks great on paper, it may not look great to software that is trying to parse that information and make sense out of it. If you are one of those people who has a resume that has your photograph on it and it has a side column where you've put certain information and then another column where you might be broken down into separate fields, you may have a resume that the bots are just choking on. They're not able to make sense out of it when they're reading it. So again, look at our Module 8. It will talk to you about formatting a resume that's easy for bots to parse and rank and rate and hopefully forward ultimately to a human decision maker. If you answered no to 2 or more of those questions, then there's a very good chance that your resume is never getting past the applicant tracking software. And we just talked about reasons why that would work against you and the fact that you can look at our Module 8 in our free online course to help you get through fixing that. However, if you answered yes to all of those questions, then there's probably a very good chance that they found somebody who was either a little better qualified or they moved somebody up from within. So somebody who already worked for the organization and that they knew to be a good fit for the job. So you can't really blame yourself for that. And you have to remember that when you're applying for remote jobs, it's very different than applying for a brick and mortar job, especially if the company is hiring nationally. So where you might put an application in with a local company and you're planning to go on into the office, there might be 20, 50 applications, maybe 100. When you're applying for a position online, there could be thousands of people applying for that job. So even if you're extremely well qualified, it only takes for somebody to be a little better qualified for them to get that position. So don't be too hard on yourself if you are extremely well qualified and you're just not hitting these jobs. It just means somebody in the talent pool met their criteria a little bit better. What if you're interviewing for jobs and you're still not getting hired? Well, there's a series of questions I want you to ask yourself if that's the case as well. All right. So did you truly meet all of their job criteria, and did your interview answers prove that? So you may be meeting the criteria, but you're not doing a good job of vocalizing that or representing that. And be truly candid with yourself when you're answering these questions, all right? Did I feel adequately prepared for the interview? Or did you go in cold and wing it? Because if you're well prepared, it will definitely come across in the way that you answer questions. Since these interviews are largely taking place remotely, what they're hearing in the background plays into their decision as well. So were you in a quiet place where the interviewer could hear what you had to say and where you could hear them clearly? When a company is hiring you to work from your own location, if during the interview process you have a chaotic background, whether it's dogs barking or kids scrambling around or doors slamming or whatever it happens to be, in their minds, they're trying to picture you working and producing in that environment. So it's really important that you have a very professional, quiet background during the course of that interview. It could make or break you. You could hit every other mark, but if they feel like you're in an environment that you can't focus in or represent them adequately in, then that's going to eliminate you from their talent pool or at least from their short list. Were you fully attentive during the interview? That's one of the other things that people struggle with. When you are, let's say you're on a webcam and you're having an interview and you're distracted because there are things around you. Do your best to make eye contact with the camera, just as I'm doing right now. I'm talking to the camera. I'm sitting in a room by myself, speaking to an audience that has yet to be, and I'm still making eye contact. That's critically important. It doesn't mean that you can't look away sometimes. I mean, I have to look away and see, what did I have on this slide? But don't lose the focus that you're talking to somebody. Don't stare them down. Nobody wants that either. But do as you would in a normal conversation. Try to be as attentive as you possibly can. Were you on time? And were you prepared? Interviewers hate it. Sometimes they're going to be late, but you don't want to be late. It's like when you go to the doctor's office. They're chronically late. But if you show up 5 minutes late and God forbid it happens to be the day that they're on time, they jump up and down your throat. So, be careful about that. Were there any questions that caught you off guard? If so, make a mental note of what they are so that you're better prepared to answer that type of question in the future. So there are some tough questions out there, and some of them are intended to be thought-provoking, and some of them are intended to see, how do you react when you're caught off guard? Are you able to improvise and come up with a solid answer to something that you just didn't even expect to have to answer? Did you emphasize how your skills would benefit them in this position? Not just emphasizing the skills that you have, but how do they weave into what the company is trying to accomplish through this position. So in order to answer those questions appropriately, you have to, of course, have done a solid review of what the job description is exactly, and something about the company as well. So if you're applying for a position where they're doing customer service for healthcare, for example, and you have healthcare experience, or you've worked in whatever in a parallel field, a vertical field, be prepared to talk about how you worked and how that benefited the company and how those skills can help benefit them with you working in this position as well, if that makes sense. Did you ask meaningful questions? Don't ever forget that an interview goes both ways. It's important for you to be able to ask questions as well. So come up with a good short list of questions that you want to ask during the course of an interview. And that shows that you're truly interested in the position. You're not just yupping somebody and answering their questions. You're weighing and measuring them at the same time that they're weighing and measuring you. That's really important. Did you ramble, or did you give meaningful and direct answers? I have a tendency to ramble. I don't know why that is. It's just inherent to who I am. And eventually I get around to my point. However, when I'm speaking with prospective employers, when I'm doing an interview with the media, I try to make sure that I get to my point as fully, but as directly as possible. Trying to be respectful of their time and understanding that if they want me to expand on my answer, they can ask me follow-up questions. So don't take 15 minutes to answer a question that you could have answered in 5 sentences, unless they're encouraging you to do that. Be respectful of their time. Also, a shorter, more direct answer indicates that you're not trying to create an answer as you go along. You're not working your way to the answer because you don't have one and you're hoping to find one along the way. You have the answer, and it's coming at them very directly. So if you answered no to 2 or more of these questions, the company likely put you to the side while they were looking for applicants who did a better job in the interview, who really aced that interview. And by thinking about how you handled yourself during the course of the interview and where you might have done better will help you to hit your marks the next time. As with the first part of this conversation, if they went in a different direction, it's more likely that they filled from within house, or they found somebody who just had a few more of the skills that they were looking for. And you can't take that personally. It's all about improving yourself as you go along and fine-tuning your search. Fine-tuning your search. I can't say it enough. And that starts at the very beginning. Applying only for the jobs that you feel well qualified for. And then fine-tuning your resume and your cover letter to show the company that you are a very good fit, if not the ideal fit, for that position. And then acing your interview by going in with some ideas about what you're going to say, paying attention to not rambling as you give your answers, and speaking with confidence directly to the person who is addressing you. I hope that helps a bit. I know it can be a really discouraging process, and I know it feels like I'm throwing more work at you, but really what I'm asking you to do is be extremely candid with yourself. Are you taking the healthiest, most direct approach to your job search? Or are you floundering and hoping that something is going to stick? Because doing the latter is only going to make you feel more defeated. Let me put this out there for you too. I know that some of you share your life with somebody who is pushing you to find a job quickly. And maybe there are good reasons for that. Maybe without your income, things are really difficult. Maybe you're the somebody who's pushing yourself. And in those cases, it can feel validating to say, I applied for 100 jobs this week. I applied for 20 jobs today. But again, don't set yourself up for failure by big numbers that don't go anywhere. Focus on the smaller numbers that actually have potential, and it will definitely help you feel better when things start to pop for you. When your focus is on things that have a real potential for success. All right, hang in there. As you continue your job search, I encourage you to visit the ratracerebellion.com website, where we're posting legitimate screened work from home jobs Monday through Friday. While you're there on the site, click on that subscribe button for our newsletter, and we'll drop a letter into your inbox every day, Monday through Friday, that will direct you toward our most recent posts, but also toward other opportunities that might help you along on your job search. As always, if you have any questions or comments, drop them into the comment section below. We're here for you. We do read those comments, and we respond as promptly as possible. Have a great day. Good luck with your job search. We look forward to hearing your success stories soon. Bye-bye.